Hello, class. So, I decided that I was going to present on friendship and the dynamics behind what I believe to be good attributes pertaining to what it means to be a good friend. And I know that kind of seems like trivial at this point in your life. However, we tend to lose track and lose sight of things over time. So I thought it would be good to refresh on this as we exit our journey at Boston College. So, Mark Twain says, "I don't like to commit myself about heaven and hell. You see, I have friends in both places." And I'm sure we all do. Okay, so just in case anyone has forgotten, my name is Brandon. I'm sure I've introduced myself before, but I'll do it again for anyone that is tuning in and has forgotten. So, basically, I want to bring everybody back down to the original elements of basically the human condition. So really, if you understand the human condition, it becomes more understandable why human beings in particular need certain social have some certain social needs for their reality. So basically, we start off as a little person, and as a little person, we grow and we observe our environment. That's really what it comes down to. Just to kind of like break it down into even more fundamentals, basically it starts from a source. That source is, however everyone wants to interpret that. I think every theory behind it is fascinating, and I look forward to always hearing what everyone has to say. But there is a physical and mental aspect of it from that point forward, and it really starts with the Big Bang. The Big Bang is also scientifically theoretical, but its theories tend to be very grounded, and we tend to appreciate its value. So through the Big Bang, here you have a human being that is born, and other human beings that are born thereafter. And basically, kind of imagine yourself in the room that you're in now. It becomes easy to understand. So when you're in a room, you're basically like, imagine a box. Your reality is the perception of the space around you that sort of collapses self-awareness in your mind and your consciousness. And we have senses, obviously, to navigate this, like the matrix around us, the mediums and matrices that are around us. And through that, like, basically we're beings of experience. If we weren't beings of experience, we would literally just be like a rock doing nothing. Some people, maybe you're content with doing that. I don't think that I'm super content with being a rock, and I don't think a lot of us are. So I think it's fair to say that it is quite all right to be a being that experiences. It's just a matter of how you go about doing that and understanding the full perspective. So you start off like as a fundamental being, you're inside a box. Now that box is very basic. In general, if you want to break down the reality, we actually build onto the basicness of reality and into what it is that we know today. Now, if you have one box, basically a room that, like, imagine that room is floating in space, so you can't go outside of its boundaries. This is where boundaries come into it. You can't go outside of the boundaries because the boundaries protect us from the harsh elements of the outside. That also includes our body and our mind to a degree, which is why, our mind is inside our head and not just kind of labeled all outside our body, for anyone to just see exactly what's going on inside. But then, like, over time, through our experiences, we sort of build onto what our reality is. We shape and morph our reality to fulfill a better experience. And, whether or not our experiences are overexerted or not, that's always up for debate, but this isn't part of what the discussion is here today. So basically, you have two versions of the same thing. One experience seems more fulfilling than the other. I don't know about you, but I don't feel very content with my reality because I'm a complex being. I think complexly, so I like to have a complex environment to experience things in. So basically, you have a room that's empty and a room that's not empty. We all want to be in the room that's not empty naturally. It's not very common. I don't want to say it isn't possible, but it's not very common that a person wants to be in an empty room with nothing in it. However, if you have the choice of having two rooms and one is empty and one is not, obviously that further adds onto our experience. However, these two rooms, there are hazards on the outside, so the boundaries are there, and it's just a matter of, like, how do you transcend beyond those boundaries in order to navigate the new rooms. So basically, like, it's safe to say the more rooms that you have to experience, typically the better. I mean, there is a certain point where our ability to experience reality has met sort of either an equilibrium or a peak at which it's difficult for us to perceive beyond that reality. It's just imagine trying to read, 1,000,000 books versus 100 books in your entire lifetime. That some people, I bet you there's probably somebody that can do it. However, I'm not one of those people that can read 1,000,000 books, let alone one book in my entire lifetime. I do read, I find it very difficult to read an entire book, let alone 1,000,000 books. So depending on the person, our experiences are slightly different, but we all share sort of a commonality between that, and that commonality is that we have experiences that we live, and that makes our life fulfilling. Otherwise, why are we human beings and not instead a rock? Now, as human beings, as part of our vehicles to be able to navigate our reality, we have basically inherent emotions. It all basically comes down to this feeling of euphoria that we experience in our consciousness. And that experience of euphoria, depending on how it activates in our body, depends on the kind of emotions that we have. But obviously, you have anger, you have sort of worry, you have sadness, you have discontent, and these are actually, like, they're kind of negative emotions, but they're not necessarily a bad thing. The reason why we have them is actually because it's a protective mechanism to make us aware of when our environment becomes overstimulating, or where sort of action needs to be taken. And I suppose over time we have grown to, sadness doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. Somebody can cry because of a sad thing. That is also a good thing. People can cry because of a sad thing. That's because of a bad thing. I think that this is really just a consequence not a consequence, but it's the result of the way that we behave in our experience, especially since we tend to want to be in the room that has more things. People are also those other things, and people are also experiences that we experience each other. And those experiences that we experience each other makes our lives tend to be more fulfilling. And obviously, like, that feeling of euphoria, like, it can manifest as positive thing. Sometimes it's a negative thing, going on a roller coaster, and if the roller coaster is too overpowering, you're not going to enjoy your experience. But that feeling of euphoria is also, it's a positive thing to help drive us in certain directions. You could be content with your life, you could be curious, you can have, it helps us to grow attachments to things. You have those memories stimulate the euphoria in our consciousness, and we experience it, we relive it. That's why people are sentimental. There's also pleasure and excitement, however you want to perceive it. And obviously, like, when we are lacking as a person in certain areas, why some people lean on drugs and other things that stimulate this sense of euphoria. However, these drugs do it to a point where it depletes our body's natural processes from, it burns out neurons, neurotransmitters between axons and neurons in our brains. Those mechanisms get burnt out, or they get overexhausted, whatever the case is. Sometimes it's okay, within reason, to have certain prescribed medications to help correct our mental health issues, or to help, pick us up from disabilities and things like that. However, when we have our friends who are going through problems, and they are lacking in these experiences where everybody else is experiencing them, and they can see that, it's not going to be a good feeling for them. It's going to cause a depression in their life. That depression, they're going to seek whatever options that they have available. Some of them might be good, some of them might be bad, but in most cases, all they needed was a good friend to turn their life around. And this is all part of the human condition. It is a very harsh environment to live in. However, it is also very rewarding. I wouldn't want to experience life in any other way other than having to experience life through the difficulties and pleasures of the human condition. Mostly the pleasures, but I suppose struggling through the difficulties helps us to appreciate the pleasures. And as a good friend, really what you want to do is you want to focus on how to recognize all those human conditions within yourself, because that's how you are able to build compassion and empathy with others. That compassion is what you strive for in order to relate to somebody else's suffering and experiences, and empathy is what you land on as a result of it when you have built that relationship that connects yourself and another person, and you and that one other person become one. So in order to justify my statements moving forward on how basically like how we should be as friends to other people in order to create a more fulfilling environment, what I did was I searched for suicidal ideologies and correlations between isolation, since basically, up to this point, I basically justified and reasoned why human beings naturally are social creatures inherently, and why, usually social experiences, and I say usually because, sometimes people can be going through some battles and their environment becomes overstimulating, so they isolate themselves. However, that we tend to often do that to each other as well, whether intentionally or unintentionally. We just need to be careful about that. But basically, what I did was I did find some statistics. A lot of them have symptoms that could be related to other causations. So it was hard to narrow down isolation as a cause. And that kind of reflects in this little statistics right here. But basically, the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs had conducted their own research within veterans and published their results on their website, and I was able to retrieve it. And I'll just read it out to you. A systemic review and meta-analysis of 17 studies confirmed that loneliness is a statistically significant predictor of suicidal ideation and even more predictive of suicidal behavior. However, the study and several others found that loneliness and depression are highly correlated and may be mutually reinforcing with the aspect to suicidal ideation and behavior. I felt that this article and these statistics helped to sort of take kind of an extreme where people have reached their breaking points pretty much and decide to exit the world on their own terms. And I'm grateful for the person who cleverly phrased it that way. In my many Instagram doom scrolling sessions, where I was able to basically phrase it in the same way. But basically, I feel like with veterans, they're individuals that deal with extreme over-exhausted stimulation because of the harsh conditions that they have to be put through in order to train for combat in a situation where somebody else on the outside isn't going to care, and they're going to basically do things to cause that intentionally. And as a result, they get, a veteran gets overstimulated due to their training, and then they isolate themselves from the public because the public's small interactions have a huge impact on these individuals. And as a result, and I'm not saying that it's the isolation alone, but we all know that our inner drive is to be social under most circumstances. So when somebody's the drive that is conditioned into them is altered, and they go from a social person to a hermit crab, and they isolate themselves from society as a result of their overstimulation, you're taking their experience away from them. Their experience is no longer enjoyable. Their isolation is likely not enjoyable, but they do it as a protective mechanism to guard themselves against the issues of the overstimulation, figuring that it's better than just taking the overstimulation and living with that. And basically, what you now have is somebody who's depressed and thinking about leaving the world, when they really don't need to do that, when they need to fight just a little bit longer until we can figure something out. But unfortunately, the conditions and experiences are not adequately recognized because a lot of people don't understand how overstimulating the environment can sometimes be, and they're not sympathetic towards the way that of their being. in a shared environment. That's the thing. Our experiences are in a shared environment, so we have to take that into consideration, and try to find some place that we can exist, the Goldilocks zone, if you will, where our experiences can live amongst each other and not conflict that much. There's going to be tension here or there, but as a good friend, you want to be able to give and take in the shared experience. One of the first things, now I'm not a doctor, however, I did get a degree. I got my associate degree in surgical technology, and as a result, they have us sign the Hippocratic Oath, which basically all healthcare professionals have to sign this, at least the ones that have to acquire some level of license in order to practice. And when we do our clinical rotations, they have us sign it. And basically the first thing that's on it, first, do no harm. It is literally the very first thing that you read on the Hippocratic Oath, and it basically goes back to ancient Greece too. And it's basically a good practice. It basically just means that any of your actions, you should always try to find the pathway of least resistance and least harm before you cause harm. Now, usually in surgery, that applies to, invasive surgery versus non-invasive surgery and stuff like that. But basically, it comes down to everything, including how we act and respond outside of our professional life as well. So basically, one of my biggest points of being a good friend is being adaptable to the situation. So assuming you're in a shared room, you have a shared experience with yourself and another person. And because of our different sort of needs, we're complex beings. Each of us have complex needs. There's commonalities between them and there's differences. It's all part of the experience. It's beautiful and chaotic at the same time. It is what it is. You just have to deal with it. You want to be a good communicator. You want to listen. You basically want to live for yourself, live for others, laugh, love. I mean, not all experiences are about laughing, but I feel like laughter basically cuts a lot of tension in the air. It's a good way to change the scenery in case, the environment starts to get a little jarred and shaky around you. And a lot of the times it's just you have to use your discernment as you're navigating. The way that you carry yourself is important. If you're a confident person around others that are in need of a good friend, people tend to build that compassion with each other. Even the person that is in need of the good friend versus the person who has that place in their experience more than fulfilled. So they're not necessarily looking to draw the attention of a good friend, but they're more in a position of the giver rather than the receiver. And part of adapting also comes down to acknowledgement of how we approach things. So you have motivation versus manipulation. You want to be a motivator, but you don't want to be a manipulator. This doesn't apply to every single situation, and you might be looking at this and thinking, well, there are certain situations where you might have to manipulate the situation. Yeah, I get that. You have a friend that might be dealing with some really heavy stuff, and you feel a need to manipulate the situation within reason. Obviously there's legal grounds and moral grounds and things to take into consideration for a reason, because our judgments aren't always the best. when it comes to that, since manipulation tends to be the easy route, but really you want to be a motivator. I think of it this way: when you want to change a situation, or you want to evolve a situation, or you want to influence a situation, you want to do it in a way where you're adding positivity to it rather than something negative. Something negative is like kind of controlling the situation. You don't want to control the situation. Okay, so leading by example, these are motivations: praising good behavior, empowering choice, being inviting, compassionate, forgiving, tolerating, versus manipulation, constant suggestions, hoping to achieve an outcome. And again, I get it, use your best discernment. Sometimes the situation might arise, but if you're going again and again and again and it doesn't work, then that's what it is. Ignoring good behavior, sometimes we like to be recognized when we do the right stuff. So it's not like a mandatory thing to be a good friend, but this is all about ways to improve that aspect of it. Another thing that gets complicated, and probably reasons why people find it difficult to know how to give attention to a friend that is in need of a friend, because there's an issue where friends, like, people might become depressed because of their situation, but their situation is not necessarily in need of change from the outside. Their situation needs change from within their inside. And like, how do you know that when you have a friend that is depressed to jump in? Well, the first thing I want to say is, like, you don't want to outwardly judge somebody's situation and say, hey, you're faking your depression. Nobody's really faking their depression. Some people, their depression is really self-caused, but a lot of people, their situation causes it, and it's difficult to get. It's kind of a difficult thing to get out of. I think you sort of tread cautiously in this area, but it's something to take into consideration. As you're observing your friend, you look at them and they're showing characteristics of being depressed, isolation, getting into the heavy stuff. They're easily agitated. They look miserable all the time. They're in pain. Some of those things are justifiable reasons for depression. You want to get them out of depression. It's not good. But usually you can tell somebody is in a bad situation when their income is low, they're struggling academically, or they're part of a vulnerable population of people that tends to be targeted, or there might be some household violence going on, or they're often confused, not in a positive way. There's also like people that act depressed because they want attention, but they're really just spoiled rotten. They have a lot of money, good income. They don't have to really worry about much, but they're kind of just very whiny about their situations, and you can usually tell whether they're like actually depressed when you put all these elements together. And they might not care about charitable causes. Now, granted, like, somebody who is actually depressed might not care about charitable causes too. And there's a lot of people that still don't care about charitable causes. But like, you would understand. It's just, you would see it. They would never care about charitable causes. Whereas somebody who is genuinely, like, really depressed, who is exhibiting the signs of not really caring, are doing it because they're depressed. They once cared and then they stopped caring. The person who's spoiled never cared to begin with. I'm not saying that they don't need help. You could always, like, be a good friend to them too. Sometimes those people, it's best to just kind of lead by example, use your best discernment. That sometimes they are suffering in their own way. So just be careful with that. Use your discernment. Rule of thumb, everybody struggles. Literally everybody. The human condition is a very harsh environment to live in. Very harsh environment to live in. Everyone struggles through it. Just some people's struggles are more. I sort of picture it like if everyone's struggling and they're trying to climb a rope, some people have these like weights and responsibilities and pressures and things that are in society or even in their head because of the way that they were born. But like basically what it comes down to with this situation is to recognize like we're all struggling, but some of us are not struggling that much and some of us are struggling a lot. If you have to spread your attention between yourself and others, then you're gonna spread it. You're gonna want to like focus a little bit more on the people that are struggling just a little bit more. Again, pressure. You want to be a person that releases pressure to your friends, not adds pressure. Even if they're doing well, you really don't want to add pressure onto their life because you don't know what somebody is going through. Some people are very good at hiding their situations and they'll hide it until it's too late. So you never want to be the person that adds weights to the person that's climbing a rope. You want to be the person that, if anything, you take weights away. Or you add something, you give them something that helps them motivate a little bit more. Proactive. Be proactive about it. Don't be a wimp. So here's like the imaginary friend paradigm. So I've heard like people make comments all the time about other people when other people sort of raise something personal about themselves or their belief systems, and it's kind of not at that time socially accepted within that circle of people. And a lot of the times, like, let's say here, like something that you don't want to say. Yeah. Like, let's say, your friend comes up to you and says, hey, here's my imaginary friend. And then as the friend giver, you don't want to say things like, yeah, I don't think I would let her bring some imaginary friend, or she's weird. That's why we don't invite her around much. Or, Sally, you need help. When's the last time you reached out to a counselor or therapist? Or, Sally, you're too old for that stuff, okay? Or, you're starting to scare us now. Or, go see a therapist or something. People say those comments. It's actually, like, sometimes it's okay to suggest a therapist. Or, like, some people, they might have, like, schizophrenia or something like that, But it isn't, like, it's not a bad thing, We turn it into a bad thing. But we ruin the experience for that person when the experience could be very, like, actually good for them. And we ruin it because of our own opinions of that it's strange and weird. Well, you know what? Fact check on this. We're all strange and weird, okay? We are all strange and weird. So instead, you want to say things like, that's really cool. I hope you can stay. You both should hang out. Tell me more about your friend. I had a friend like that too once. We haven't talked in a while because I think he's in heaven now. Be supportive. You want to give life, not take away life. You want to be a life giver, not a life siphoner. Don't be like, there's creatures that siphon off of other creatures, and to a huge degree human beings do it, but we definitely should not be doing it to each other. We are intelligent beings. We are intelligent beings to overcome those animalistic limitations that we are born with just to get us started. But our brain should be taken over at that point. We should be finding ways to give life or staying out of the business in general. If you're not good at it, I get it. It is what it is. It's not necessarily our job to be a good person, but you're going to find your own experience improves when you do that. Or at the very least, don't be the person that adds misery to another person's life. Try to be a good friend. Try to add help, give life. So I came up with, this is basically like my argument in a nutshell. You want to balance yourself and others. A good friend will do that. Yeah, you might think that the best friend will give their shirt off their back, and I tend to do that myself. But really, you want to find some sort of balance, and that it's like a pendulum. It could swing back and forth, and it really depends on the situation. Just use your best discernment. You want to balance your relationship with God. My opinion of like the spirituality of things and like my search for all of that is kind of a unique experience, but like you got to be compassionate towards everybody's unique experiences there. So I generally put God, and I say the term loosely, it's what our belief systems are. And you want to balance, it's a good thing to balance the goodness and the philosophy of it that grounds us as human beings, and basically push through the love. You want to be brave. You want to stand up for the goodness. You want to stand up for your rights. Manifest dignity in everything as much as possible. You can never go wrong. I guarantee you that. That's being a good friend right there. Giving dignity to as many things as possible. At all things, everything, even inanimate objects that we think are inanimate. It's good to balance those things, and that through those experiences, we build compassion and empathy, and that grounds us, essentially, and this little diagram that I put together, I feel like accurately reflects how we should be as a being. Everybody together, shared experience, as a wholeness, diverse collective. That's being a good friend. Okay? I'm sorry that I haven't been the best friend to you guys, and I'm sorry to my actual, like, in-person friends that I sometimes hang around with. Sometimes I'm not always the best friend, but you know what? I know how to be a good friend, and I know how to navigate my experience to not be a bad friend. And I think that's important. In certain situations, like me going to Boston College and me having to focus a lot on my school and having a lot on my plate, and kind of that has caused me to isolate myself. And sometimes I get depressed as a result of it. I'm a very social creature. I love being around people. I am around a lot of people, but it's complicated. I get overstimulated too, and that's how I've been able to share this experience through this discussion here. And basically, I would say